With Real Madrid going through a downfall, there is now a civil war within their own fan base. You see this all the time with different nations, civilizations. When things are going down, there's always an implosion within that group. And with Real Madrid, it's a battle between Vini FC and Mbappe FC. That's where we are in modern sports, where there's a lot of fans that support a player rather than the club as a whole. Probably started with the Messi versus Ronaldo era. I think a lot of people followed Cristiano Ronaldo from United to Real Madrid.
What was it before?
Wherever Ronaldo played, and since he's left Premier League, now I support Manchester City.
But you see it in all kinds of sports. That's why so many people follow LeBron James everywhere. They're actually called the LeBron sexuals. So with Real Madrid, the division is between the people who really love Vini versus the people that really love Mbappe. Now there is a third group. These are the more rational Real Madrid fans that don't really care about either player. They just want to see their club play at the highest level again. They want Florentino Perez to figure it out, bring in a tempo dictating central midfielder, bring in some defenders, do whatever he has to get this team to the top. Having said that though, even those fans who love the club as a whole, who are loyal to Real Madrid and not a single player, they will naturally have a bias to either Vini or Mbappe. It's just natural. You're going to lean in one direction. Nobody can sit on the fence with this issue. So who's on which side? Well, on the Vini side, you have, number one, the group of people who have watched him throughout his entire Real Madrid career. Real Madrid fans that have been supporting the club since 2019, they would have seen Vini transform from this guy who could barely shoot the ball, somebody who was so ass at finishing that he would go on goal droughts for months. In fact, at one point it got so bad that when Vini finally scored, he literally broke down into tears.
Vinícius va a buscar puerta, el tiro, golazo, gol de este chico de 19 años.
So those fans saw him go from that player to somebody who was on the Ballon d'Or podium, somebody who was a Champions League player of the season, somebody who was genuinely one of the best players in the world. So they have a certain emotional connection with him that they wouldn't have with a new guy who just came to the club, or frankly any other player. The other people that support Vini are the classic glory hunters of Real Madrid. Because Madrid are so successful, because they have won so many titles, they're naturally going to get a lot of people who just join in and join their fan base simply because they have won. Nothing wrong with that, that's just how it is for all big clubs. So those people would be the people that joined when Real Madrid won the Champions League in 2022, or they joined when they won the Champions League in 2024. Those guys have only seen Vini be a top player, because from 2022 to 2024, he was genuinely one of the best in the world. In fact, in 2024, he probably was the best even though they gave it to Rodri. Those are the two groups that really love Vini. Then you have the Mbappe fans. Now these guys tend to be the guys that just simply followed him over from PSG to Real Madrid. Most of these guys, to be honest with you, are not actual Real Madrid fans. They care more about Mbappe than they care about the club. Not all the time. There are some older Real Madrid fans that definitely like Mbappe and what he's brought to the team. But regardless, there's a clear division between these two people. And it's hard because on one side you have the Vini supporters saying, hey, it's not Vini's fault. And I'm going to get into the arguments for and against Vini later in the video. Then you have the Mbappe fans who are like, hey, our guy is scoring 40 plus goals this season. He can't be the problem. And then you have the third group that I told you, which are just the rational fans who are tired of both of these guys flopping. By flopping, I mean flopping for pens and diving. And they just want these guys to finally click and just play football at a high level. How can you have two of the best players in the world and they're more focused on diving and getting pens than actually winning football matches? So let me first start with the arguments for Viní Jr. and Vini FC. As I told you guys, there's a special connection between Real Madrid fans and Vinícius because they have seen the development of his career in real time. When Ronaldo left, there was a massive hole in the club. They were lacking a superstar. They were lacking somebody that could take the game by the scruff of the neck and change the outcome. Eden Hazard was supposed to be that guy, but he battled with injuries, so he was never able to replicate his Chelsea form at Madrid. And Benzema, I know he had an amazing 2022 year, but he was not the same guy in those previous years, in those first few years that Ronaldo left. Because of the Hazard injury and because of Ronaldo leaving, Vini was thrown into the fire. Initially, they loved him because he actually took players on, he was exciting, but of course he didn't have the end product. His finishing sucked, he was inconsistent in front of goal, and even his performances were inconsistent. Sometimes he looked like he was bringing Joga Bonito back, other times, as I've stated, he looked like Brazilian Garnacho. But anyways, he was young, he was raw, so many Madrid fans got behind him, they supported him. His development was fast-tracked because of the context around the club at the time, the situation they were in, which in theory, to be honest, probably helped his development, but those first few years were very tough. Then he got his mojo going, and of course he helped Real Madrid win a lot of silverware, including 2 Champions League titles, Supercopa de España, league titles, and that's why Vini supporters love him so much, and why they still back him, because they say, hey, Mbappe, Donatello, Mbappe the dictator, he hasn't brought us anything. Meanwhile, Vini has helped Real Madrid win 2 Champions League titles. He was absolutely a star on the team when they won it in 2022 with Benzema. They had such a dynamic duo, they played off each other really well. Of course, Benzema was the worthy Ballon d'Or winner that year, but Vini was so pivotal to that campaign. It was his goal in the final that helped Real Madrid win.
From Real Madrid, Valverde then drives it in!
For Vini, if you actually look at his club career, and you only look at the Champions League, he'd go down as a top 10 player ever, because his Champions League resume is so impressive. Unfortunately for him, other competitions exist, but it just shows you how impressive he's been. So him and Benzema plus Courtois helped Real Madrid win in 2022. Then in 2024, it's Vini and Bellingham that helped Los Blancos become champions again. Wonderful performances from him. I mean, in the business end of that Champions League campaign, he was incredible. That's why I never bought the argument of people saying, oh, well, look at his stats. It wasn't that impressive. He wasn't actually a Ballon d'Or winner. Context matters when you look at stats. And okay, maybe his total goals and assists wasn't the most impressive, but look at where and when he got them. Scored in the final of the Champions League, scored against Bayern Munich in the semifinals, scored against Manchester City in the quarterfinals, assisting in big games. That matters a lot more than the total. If somebody shows up in that business end of the season, which he did both in the Champions League and La Liga, in my opinion, that matters significantly more than somebody stat padding against random opposition. So in 2 separate years, and 2023 he was very good too. Real Madrid just ran into that amazing City team. But in those 2 years, Vini was incredible. He was the face of the team. He was one of the biggest reasons why they won. In 2024, he was the Champions League player of the season. So Vini fans will argue, hey, we had a proven winning formula. Have Vinícius Jr. play off of a number 9/box crasher. In 2022, it was Benzema. In 2024, it was Jude Bellingham /Joselu. Have a player like that playing off of Vini, and boom, he will bring you titles. We have seen it on display in multiple different seasons. Then on top of that, Vini actually fought for the badge. He's been there since the beginning. He's almost like an academy player, so he has a certain love for the club that new signings might not have.
He llegado aquí como niño, tenía 18 años, muchos sueños. No imaginaba poder marcar tantos goles em pouco tempo e entrar na história deste clube que é muito difícil porque tantos jogadores já han passado por aqui, tanta leyenda que han ganado tanto e han marcado muitos goles e poder legar cerca de ellos é algo importante e que me sonhava.
But here's the thing, as good of an argument as that is, there are a lot of arguments against Viní Jr. First of all, it's the drama around him. You see, even when he was at his best, this guy is just famous for throwing tantrums. He starts beefing with the opposition fullback. He's always weeping at the referee. These things can be tolerated when you're scoring goals in big games and you're getting stats and you're helping the club lift silverware. They are not acceptable when the performances on the pitch don't match the attitude.
We thought of his involvement in the little post-match tiff with some of the Barcelona players. But firstly, to him being subbed off and even seeing Xavi's body language towards him, what did you make of it? This is not what we want to see when we thought Vini had matured by now.
Yeah, we were talking before the game about that situation. We thought that Viní Jr. was maturing, was understanding that he's not anymore the main player of the team, that it's a collective team, that you need to win trophies together with the rest of the players. And this kind of moments, we put them back and well.
If you're weeping at the ref, you're not tracking back, that is going to piss fans off, especially if you're not scoring on the other end. So that's what a lot of Real Madrid fans argue. A lot of them, they're like, hey, Vini, we liked you. You brought us great moments. If you're going to do these stupid things and you're not even going to back up the talent on the pitch, why would we want you around the club anymore? And that's the situation now, because Vini's stats, if you look at it, they're not the worst. But if you have eyes and you've actually watched Real Madrid games, you will see that the numbers don't reflect the performances. They don't showcase the amount of times that he's not tracked back. They don't show the times where he's failed to beat his fullback and then blame the fans. Like, that's inexcusable. Later in the video, I'm going to talk about the fact that tactically Mbappe has obviously changed things for Vini for the worse, but that doesn't explain Vini missing easy 1v1 chances, not beating the player in front of him, failing to dribble, making poor decisions of shooting when he should pass, dribbling when somebody else was open. So Vini's not blameless. Yes, the Mbappe arrival hasn't helped, but his performances individually have just naturally dropped. So when you combine all of these things together, he becomes an easy scapegoat because his mistakes are so visible. In a game where Real Madrid loses and all Vini did was run into the box and try and dive for a pen, it's easy to pick that out and say, hey, you're not helping us win football matches. And then there's the drama off the pitch. I mean, Vini practically almost single-handedly got rid of Xabi Alonso. Yes, there were other people, according to reports, that didn't like Xabi's ways, but Vini was by far and away the most vocal of the group. He threw tantrum after tantrum, despite Madrid winning as a team. And that's a big problem because it showed that Vini was one of those players who cares more about his individual stats than the club as a whole. Who cares if you're getting subbed out if your team is winning matches? Obviously, I understand that these superstars have egos. They always want to be on the pitch. You see even Lamine Yamal throwing tantrums when he gets subbed out. But for Vini, I just don't understand why he was doing that, especially since he was playing well and the club was playing well. But he was always crying. He was always making a fuss.
He kind of got frustrated and wanted to show it this way. And again, I think the Maka expressed it very well. It's not a moment to complain. It's a moment to enjoy, to give the option to another player. You are talking about players in Real Madrid, so every one of them is a top class player and he's gonna try to make the best. So you are kind of disrespect the players who is joining the team. Is disrespectful also for the manager who takes the decisions. So in the end, it's something that we don't want to see, or at least we don't want to see often. It happens at some point.
And again, he did this under Carlo Ancelotti as well. Ancelotti is just a mastermind when it comes to man management. But that's also the problem. These guys really coddled Vini. They let him do whatever he wanted, and that developed bad habits for him. And that's why when Alonso came in, according to multiple reports, the first observation he made was that the players had all developed these bad habits, bad routines, and that's why they couldn't jump to that next level. But of course, that's what caused the issue. Because you have Vini saying, hey, the things that I've done before, my habits, my routines, what I do on the pitch, it's brought us titles. Why would I change now? And that's why, of course, naturally, Perez got rid of the manager because it's a lot easier to get rid of him than it is to get rid of Vinícius. But all of these things play together. It's why many fans, especially the ones who are Mbappe stands, will blame Vini for Real Madrid not doing good. Because they'll say, hey, Mbappe's scoring the goals, he's doing his thing. What the hell is Vini doing on the left? Like I said, everybody tolerated Vini's actions when they were winning titles. When they stopped winning, a lot of people started avoiding Vini and moving away from him like he was the COVID virus. Now we get to the arguments for Mbappe, the arguments proposed by Mbappe FC. The first one is easy. Look at his output.
All over the top, and Mbappe's got beyond Diaz, and he's helped it into the back of the City net. And now Rodrigo, and now Mbappe, and the Blues are in deep, deep trouble now.
Mbappe fans will tell you, how can you blame the guy scoring 40 goals a season? How can you blame the guy who won a European Golden Boot during his worst season ever? Like, you can't bench a guy who's scoring so regularly. And it's very difficult to try and convince people who haven't watched Real Madrid weekly how Mbappe can be a problem, right? Because the hardest thing to do in football is to score goals. And Mbappe does it at a very high level. Although some people would argue that a lot of his goals have been stat pads. Like, for example, he had a great goal against Bayern Munich, but many of his Champions League goals came against Kirat and Olympiacos. Now, Real Madrid are so bad that they needed every single one of Mbappe's goals to beat Olympiacos, but still, somebody can make that argument. They can say that Mbappe in a lot of the big games for Real Madrid has really been non-existent. But it's very difficult to convince people that. It's very difficult to convince people that the guy who is about to win Pichichi back-to-back is the problem. Having said that, it becomes much easier when you point at Mbappe's former team. A lot of people said the exact same things about PSG. They said without Mbappe, without arguably their greatest player ever, they're not going to win the Champions League. I mean, how are they going to account for the fact that they just lost a player who was scoring 40 goals a season regularly? Well, as you can see, PSG are now having their best ever period without their greatest ever player, because the goals got spread around like Nutella on a nice juicy butt cheek.
Mr. Tyson, are you dipping in the chocolate?
Kvara gets some goals, Ousmane Dembele gets some goals, Desiree Doué gets some goals. So now instead of the output all coming from one player, everybody gets a slice, and the team as a unit plays better because they can press more. I mean, that clip of Luis Enrique talking to Mbappe about tracking back, trying to use the Michael Jordan analogy to get him to buy in, it's gone viral so many times. Pretty much every single time Madrid loses, that clip resurfaces.
Te gustaba Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan cogía de los huevos a todos sus compañeros y se ponía a defender como un hijo de puta. Tú tienes que dar ese ejemplo, primero como persona y como jugador, de ir a presionar. Vas a tener a Cubarsí, vas a ser tú el que marca a Cubarsí y a Ter Stegen. Y te vas a pegar todo el partido presionando a Cubarsí que no avance y presionando a Ter Stegen para que juegue rápido. Y volviendo rápido. ¿Para qué? Para ser un líder.
And it tells you everything. That's why there are so many clips of Luis Enrique literally telling journalists, hey, we might have lost a fantastic player, a generational player, but we have gotten better as a unit.
Yo también pienso que siempre es muy difícil decirle a un jugador del nivel de Kylian Mbappé. Creo que el equipo está respondiendo a un nivel espectacular. Os dije que me encantaría que hubiera, en vez de un jugador que marque 40 goles, 4 que marcaran 12 cada uno. Ya hay 2 que han superado con creces esos números.
So that's the prime example that I would use to try and tell people, hey, just because Mbappe is getting goals, that doesn't mean that he's blameless. He's doing a good job, but a lot of what he does doesn't get the best out of the players around him. So ever since he's arrived, Vini has gotten worse. And yes, like I said, Vini's not blameless. It's not Mbappe's fault that he can't beat his fullback, but it's definitely Mbappe's fault that he's not in the box. Because we have seen Real Madrid have a proven winning formula before he got there. And Mbappe comes in and so many times he's nowhere near the 18-yard box, he drops too deep, he goes into the same left half spaces as Vinícius Jr. And then Mbappe does this thing where he keeps dropping back to receive the ball. I don't know if it's because he played with Messi for a few seasons or he thinks it's Karim Benzema, but that is not Mbappe's skill set.
Mbappe, instead of staying as a 9, he always goes into Vinícius' path and try to get the ball in and around here. Once again, both there, Vinícius doesn't know where to go. Okay, he passes it, now Kylian, then he realizes he's in the pack. Okay, I need to move, and look at where he goes and get the ball again. No 9. You don't need to go there. Stay in the middle. But because he likes to go on the left, just like Vinícius, have a look, stay with him, ball is going to go on the side now. Make a run, tap in. And Vinícius Jr., look at the difference. Instead of going and get the ball, he stays high in the 9 position. Cross, he taps it in.
His best qualities are his pace and his shooting. He needs to be getting in behind defender, getting into the box. Yes, Benzema used to drop deep, but Benzema's skill set is completely different than Mbappe. Benzema is a unique striker in the fact that he's so aesthetic on the ball, so good in tight spaces, high footballing IQ. Mbappe, despite his goals, is not the most intelligent footballer. There's a clip that unfortunately we can't show because La Liga has a boner for manually flagging videos to make them demonetized, so we can't show any La Liga footage. But there's an exact moment where I will show you, hopefully with images if my editor can find it, of how low Mbappe's IQ is. There's a game in La Liga. He does a roulette pass the player. There's like 4 guys open on the left-hand side, and instead of switching the play, he does a back heel back to where the ball came from. It's a little moment, but there's so many moments like that throughout the season where you see that Mbappe's footballing IQ is just not at that high level. And that's why I don't understand why he drops deep. Benzema used to drop deep because he could find the perfect passes. He could break lines. He connected with the other players. Like I said, the connection that Benzema and Vini had was unbelievable. They were always on the same wavelength. So even if he came into the left half spaces, he would play these quick 1-2s and then get back into the box. Mbappe is never in the box. Jude Bellingham is in the box.
Just imagine if he had gone there, and you will understand why I show you that, because you're not always going to score goals from there or try to be, we know he can, okay? We know he scored a lot of goals already for Madrid there. But you can score 10 to 8, maybe more there by scoring a tap-in. He doesn't even read the cross. That would have been a tap-in. And I said that more often than not, if he does that, if he stays there and he doesn't go and play, make a run there, no, let him go in the box. And then what happened? You can tap it in. As simple as that. If he does that more often than not, the issue that you have when you have quality, I'm not having a go at people that don't have quality, but they accept to be more patient because they know they don't have the quality to go and get the ball and dribble past people or play on the right or on the left. So they wait. They have to be patient. They don't have your quality, Kylian.
Then Mbappe comes back to receive the ball, and he's not the best in tight spaces. He's good with the ball at his feet when he's sprinting at the opposition fullback when there's space, but he's not good in tight areas. So I don't know why he's dropping back again. And another example of his football IQ is how many times this brother is offside. He's the fastest player on the pitch. He can afford to keep his distance from that last man. He will still beat him even if he gives the center back that advantage. But no, he's always playing right off the shoulder of the defender, and because he's way quicker, he gets caught offside all the time. So I don't know why Mbappe does that. But going back to the arguments for Mbappe, it's his output. Then people will talk about his professionalism. He doesn't throw tantrums like Vini. He might have dictator powers behind the scenes, like all jokes aside, we don't know. We do know that Vini played a pivotal role in Xabi Alonso getting sacked. None of the reports indicate that Mbappe had any beef with Xabi Alonso. So by all accounts, besides the jokes about him being a dictator, please don't come for me, Mbappe. He's the model professional. Besides that one red card he got a season ago, he usually very much keeps his cool. So again, the complete opposite of Vini, who just lashes out. And then you have the fact that on his day, Mbappe is a better player. Yes, Vini has done better things for Real Madrid as a whole, but Kylian Mbappe is a better footballer than him. But the lack of pressing from him, the positional clash with Vini, who was already in that left space. These are things that you cannot ignore. And it's not like it's in the first season of these two playing together where you can say, oh, they'll adapt. It's been 2 seasons now, 2 trophyless seasons. It does not take this long for the report to be fixed. And I think for Real Madrid, that's the worrying sign. Do they really think that if they bring in a Vitinha or an Enzo Fernandez, they bring in some sort of deep line playmaker, which they desperately need, is that going to be enough to make this team a good team again? Because I still think there's a lot of tactical issues with this squad. There's a reason that Vini and Mbappe never have a good game together. When everybody's playing, Mbappe was the one flourishing. He was the one scoring the goals, he was doing everything. When Mbappe was injured, Vini looked like himself again. Is there ever going to be a moment where these two guys are actually going to be on the same page and just click? We have enough data now to suggest that maybe this thing just won't work. Like, does it take more than 2 seasons for 2 players to adapt? Is it going to be enough if Real Madrid bring in a proper right winger on that right hand side? What I will say as positive news for Real Madrid fans, because I saw a lot of them reposting clips and talking about the good old days of BBC. But even back then, things were not perfect. Maybe a lot of fans are newer fans so they don't remember. But back then, every single week, there were reports about Benzema, Bale, and Ronaldo not working. There were reports that these guys had beef together, that this guy didn't want to pass to that guy. People forget it because winning papers over all the cracks. That's been the biggest issue with Real Madrid. They're just not winning anything. They're not winning games. They're not winning silverware. So it becomes easier for these narratives to keep being pushed. Back then, the same narratives were being pushed, but because those guys won so much, it got forgotten. The same journalists we see now were saying that Ronaldo and Bale couldn't play together. I remember that was a big trend. They said their egos were too big, that they both wanted to play on the left-hand side. The media would overanalyze everything. If Bale missed a moment, the camera would immediately zoom in on Ronaldo. If Benzema missed a chance, it would go on Gareth Bale. Anytime they didn't pass to each other or their body language was slightly off, there would be news about it. It would be a big story. And keep in mind, BBC didn't even play that many minutes together under Zidane. So once again, that created more narratives that these guys can't work together. Almost every single summer, there were reports about Benzema being sold. I think people forget about this because Benzema went out with such a bang. That 2022 year was amazing. But before that, especially from like 2018 to 2021, Benzema was not a very liked figure at Real Madrid. At one point, he had single-digit goals in a La Liga campaign. Like, this guy was playing with Ronaldo, Modric, Isco, Kroos, Bale, and he scored 5 goals. Like, that's outlandish. That's ridiculous. Then there were reports that Ronaldo wanted to go to PSG because he didn't want to play with these guys anymore. Like I said, every little reaction was overanalyzed. They had like 30-minute, 1-hour segments just looking at the body language of all the players. Even Bale said on the Overlap podcast that the Spanish media was just so on top of him. He wouldn't respond to something, so people would just run with the narrative and say it was true. Like, for example, saying that he had beef with Cristiano Ronaldo.
And just, yeah, I never wanted the kind of, I don't know, the circus that goes with it. I just wanted to play football and go home and be with my family kind of thing. And I think for Madrid, it's probably not enough for the fans. They want to get to know you, they want to know your personality, they want that bit of ego. And it never really was me. And I was so stubborn, I was unwilling to change. And there's other things that I was stubborn with that probably, if I played the game a bit better, I would have probably been less targeted by the press and the fans and stuff. But
were you targeted a lot?
Yeah, I think so. And even I remember leaving a game because if we were injured or suspended, you could leave 10 minutes for the end of the game.
Right.
That was like the rule. You had to be there. I remember I left on like I would always leave 82 minutes, miss the traffic. And because we lost, there was like a picture of me and they were like, you left early. And then I'm on the front page of the paper and I'm like, I do the same as everybody else, but you just, It just felt a bit more targeted.
What I'm trying to get at, Real Madrid fans, is that this isn't new. When you build a team around Galacticos and these big names and these big egos, there's always going to be stories that are made up. Whether they're true or not, we will never know. But the reports will always exist. And the more you win, the quieter the noise becomes. But the more you lose, like Real Madrid have in the past 2 seasons, the more that noise starts to circulate. Now, only time will tell if Real Madrid's future includes both Vini and Mbappe. But right now, the civil war between the fan bases, all the media noise, even my own videos, they're coming because Real Madrid are not winning. Winning solves everything. It crowds out all the noise. So the question is, does this team have enough to turn it around? Are they a few signings away from finally clicking? History tells us yes. If you look at the history of the Galacticos, they always struggle and then eventually figure things out after more signings. To see the history of the Galacticos and why the third version of them is failing because of history and Florentino Perez not learning from past mistakes, you have to watch this video right here.